Life is full of moments that push our buttons. A sudden comment, a traffic jam, or even a memory from the past can spark emotions that feel bigger than us. Sometimes it feels like we are not in control of ourselves, as if invisible strings are pulling our reactions. What if you could pause, breathe, and choose how to respond, instead of being swept away by old patterns? What if every trigger could become a doorway to understanding yourself better and living more freely? This book will guide you step by step to recognize your triggers, understand their origin, and transform them into tools of growth. You will learn how to notice the small signals before they explode into big reactions, how to bring compassion to yourself and others, and how to live from clarity instead of chaos. By the end, you will see that mastery over triggers is not about control over the world, but freedom within yourself. Let us begin by noticing what is happening inside you the very moment a trigger appears. Chapter 1 will take you into the art of awareness, the first step toward mastering your reactions and reclaiming your life. Chapter 1. Awareness is the beginning. Awareness is the very first step in mastering your triggers. Without awareness, life moves automatically. Every action is reaction. Every emotion is pulled by a hidden string from the past. You may feel angry or anxious and not even know why. The moment you notice, you create a space. In that space, you have choice. Without choice, you are a puppet of old patterns. Triggers are signals, not punishments. They are reminders that something inside needs attention. Think about it. A person cuts in front of you in traffic. Your heart beats faster. Anger rises. Your mind shouts words you may later regret. Before awareness, you are the storm. With awareness, you are the observer. You notice the heat in your chest, the tightness in your shoulders, the quickness of your breath. You can label it: anger, irritation, impatience. And in that act of labeling, the power of the emotion begins to soften. Awareness is not about judgment. It is about noticing. Noticing without calling it good or bad. Noticing without blaming yourself or others. When you can do this consistently, you begin to see patterns in your life. You begin to understand what triggers you and why. This understanding is freedom. As Buddha said, awareness is the path to liberation. It is simple, yet powerful. The body is the first messenger of awareness. Before your mind understands what is happening, your body reacts. Your stomach tightens, your chest feels heavy. Your hands may shake. The body stores memories of past experiences. A trigger awakens these stored experiences. If you are aware of the body's messages, you can catch the reaction before it becomes overwhelming. Breath is your anchor. A slow, deep breath tells your nervous system that you are alive, but you are not in danger. It calms the flood of old emotions. It brings clarity. Awareness also includes noticing your thoughts. Thoughts often create stories that are far from reality. A single event becomes a story of injustice or fear. Thoughts feed emotion, and emotion feeds thought. Awareness interrupts this cycle. You observe the thought as if it belongs to someone else. This observation reduces its power. When you are aware, you also notice triggers in real time. You may feel tension when someone criticizes you or impatience when things do not go your way. Awareness allows you to pause. Even a pause of a few seconds is enough to choose a response, instead of reacting automatically. Viktor Frankl, the great psychologist, said there is always a space between stimulus and response. In that space lies freedom. Awareness gives you that space. Awareness is like a flashlight in a dark room. Before the light, you stumble and bump into furniture. After the light, you see clearly and can move safely. Triggers are not obstacles, but lights showing where your attention is needed. The more you practice awareness, the brighter the light becomes. Start simple. Notice your breathing several times a day. Check your posture, your tension, your heartbeat. Notice your emotions and label them without judgment. Say to yourself silently, anger, fear, sadness, impatience. Notice where the feeling is in your body. Notice how your mind adds a story to the feeling. This simple practice is the foundation of mastery. Awareness is also noticing the present moment. Triggers often pull us into the past or future. We remember old hurts or fear future outcomes. Awareness brings you back to now. Now is where life unfolds. Now is where choice exists. By staying present, you reduce the power of triggers. Awareness grows through consistent practice. Meditation is one tool, but awareness can happen anywhere. Walking, eating, listening, talking. Every action can be an exercise in noticing. The more you notice, the more freedom you gain. The more freedom you gain, the less a trigger controls you. Remember, awareness is gentle. Do not force it or judge yourself for not being aware. Even noticing once in a moment is progress. Small steps accumulate into transformation. The goal is not perfection, but conscious living. Every trigger becomes a teacher when you are aware. In this chapter, we have explored the power of noticing, pausing, and observing. You have learned that awareness is the first step in mastering your triggers. It is simple, yet requires practice and patience. Without awareness, you remain at the mercy of old patterns and reactions. With awareness, you open the door to choice, growth, and freedom. Now, with awareness as your foundation, we move to Chapter 2. In Chapter 2, you will learn to identify your emotional buttons. You will discover how past experiences have shaped your sensitivity and why certain situations push you to react. Understanding these buttons is the next step after awareness. It is where awareness meets insight. It is where you begin to see not only the trigger but also the story behind it. Chapter 2. Know your emotional buttons. Every person has emotional buttons. These are the points that, when pressed, create strong reactions. Buttons are formed from past experiences, childhood memories, and repeated patterns. They are not your fault, but they control how you feel and act. Knowing them is the key to freedom. Think about a time when a simple comment made you angry, hurt, or upset. Often, the reaction is bigger than the situation itself. That is a button being pressed. It is connected to a memory, a belief, or an unmet need from the past. You cannot change the past, but you can understand it and reduce its power over you. Emotional buttons are different for everyone. What triggers one person may not trigger another. Some people are sensitive to criticism, others to rejection, some to feeling ignored or misunderstood. Recognizing your own buttons is essential. When you know them, you can prepare, pause, and respond consciously instead of reacting automatically. Start by observing yourself. Notice what situations make your body tense, your heart beat faster, or your thoughts spin. Notice what words, actions, or events consistently create strong emotions. Write them down if you like. This is not judgment. It is data. It is information that will help you understand yourself better. Understanding your buttons also involves looking at the story behind them. Why does criticism feel unbearable? Why does rejection feel like failure? Why does being ignored feel like pain? The answer is often hidden in past experiences. These experiences shaped your beliefs and expectations. The belief may say, I am not enough, I must please others, or I am unworthy. These beliefs make triggers more powerful. Awareness alone is not enough. Insight is needed. When a button is pressed, notice the signs in your body. Tension, heat, tight chest, rapid breath, or even a fluttering stomach. These are early signals of emotional activation. By noticing them early, you create a pause before the reaction. This pause is your power. It is also important to notice your mental response. The mind often creates a story around the trigger. I cannot believe they did this. They do not respect me. This is unfair. These thoughts fuel the emotion. By observing the thought without judgment, you reduce its intensity. Knowing your buttons allows you to respond consciously. Instead of reacting with anger, fear, or defensiveness, you can choose a calmer and wiser action. You may speak less, breathe more, or walk away for a moment. This choice changes everything. Famous psychologist Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, It will direct your life. Emotional buttons are unconscious patterns until you bring them into awareness. Once conscious, you can master them rather than be controlled by them. Practice is essential. Notice your buttons in daily life. Begin with small situations. Do not wait for a big crisis to practice. Small moments provide powerful training. Over time, you will notice patterns. Certain people, situations, or words consistently press your buttons. This insight allows you to plan, prepare, and reduce unnecessary stress. It also improves your relationships. When you are aware of your buttons, you respond rather than react, and others feel safe and respected. Knowing your emotional buttons is not about suppressing emotions. It is about understanding and managing them consciously. It is about reclaiming your power and living intentionally. Every trigger is an opportunity to understand yourself more deeply. In the next chapter, we will explore the power of pausing before reacting. Pausing transforms awareness and understanding into action. It is the bridge between knowing your buttons and choosing a conscious response. Chapter 3 will teach you how to create that space, even in intense moments, and turn triggers into opportunities for growth. Chapter 3. Pause before you react. Once you know your triggers and emotional buttons, the next step is learning to pause. Pausing is the secret power between being controlled and choosing your response. Without a pause, reactions are automatic. They are old habits, formed over years, often from childhood or repeated patterns. Automatic reactions may feel justified in the moment, but later you realize they cause regret, tension, or broken relationships. Pausing does not mean ignoring the situation. It means creating a moment of awareness between stimulus and response. Even a few seconds can make a huge difference. Viktor Frankl, the great psychologist, said that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies freedom. In that space, you choose how to act. The pause starts with the body. Notice the first signals when a trigger is pressed. Is your chest tight? Are your shoulders tense? Is your breath fast or shallow? These physical signs are warnings. They are your body saying something important is happening. When you notice the signals, take a slow, deep breath. The breath anchors you in the present moment. The mind also benefits from pausing. When a trigger activates a strong emotion, the mind usually creates a story. They are trying to hurt me. This is unfair. I cannot handle this. If you respond immediately, the story and emotion push you into reaction. If you pause, you notice the story for what it is. You do not have to believe it completely. You do not have to act on it automatically. Pausing also gives space for empathy. You can consider other perspectives. Why did the other person act this way? Maybe they are unaware, stressed, or repeating their own patterns. Pausing prevents escalation. It allows understanding to enter before reaction. Practice the pause in small daily situations. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do not shout or honk immediately. Notice your anger, breathe, and choose your response. When a friend says something that irritates you, do not respond immediately. Take a breath, notice your emotion, and then speak. Even small pauses build self-control. Pausing is also an inner dialogue. Say silently to yourself, pause, notice, and respond consciously. This dialogue strengthens awareness and reduces impulsive reactions. Over time, pausing becomes natural. You no longer feel like a puppet of your triggers. It is important to practice pausing consistently. Some moments are easy, some are intense. Do not be discouraged if you forget or react automatically. Even remembering to pause once in a day is progress. Each pause trains your mind and nervous system for freedom. Breathing techniques support the pause. Deep, slow breaths calm the nervous system. They lower heart rate, reduce tension, and clear the mind. Even counting silently while breathing, 1 inhale, 1 exhale, gives a few extra seconds for choice. Pausing also allows reflection. During the pause, ask yourself, what do I really want to do here? What action aligns with my values? What outcome brings peace rather than regret? This reflection transforms triggers into opportunities for growth. Remember, pausing is not weakness. It is strength, discipline, and intelligence. It allows you to act from clarity rather than reaction. It strengthens your emotional resilience and improves relationships. Famous teachers and philosophers have emphasized this practice. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Pausing transforms repeated reactive habits into mindful actions. It is the bridge between awareness and mastery. In the next chapter, we will explore the power of naming your emotions. When you pause and notice, labeling the feeling brings clarity and reduces its intensity. Chapter 4 will guide you to recognize the specific emotion behind every trigger, how to observe it without judgment, and how to transform it into insight and wisdom. This is the next step in your journey to mastering triggers, building emotional strength, and living consciously. Chapter 4. Name the feeling. Once you have learned to pause before reacting, the next step in mastering your triggers is naming the feeling. Naming the feeling is simple, yet profoundly powerful. It transforms chaos into clarity. It separates you from the emotion rather than allowing the emotion to take over. When a trigger presses your button, the mind and body react. Anger, fear, sadness, frustration, shame, all arise quickly. Without awareness, these emotions sweep you away like a storm. When you name the feeling, you step back. You say silently to yourself, "This is anger, this is fear, this is hurt." You are no longer merged with the emotion. It is happening, but it is not all of you. Language creates distance. By labeling the emotion, you acknowledge it without judgment. This simple act reduces its intensity. Emotions often carry a story. They whisper, "This is unfair. I cannot tolerate this. They do not respect me." The story fuels the emotion, and the emotion fuels the story. Naming the feeling interrupts this cycle. You are not saying the story is wrong or right. You are simply identifying the core emotion. This recognition brings calm and clarity. Emotional awareness starts with your body. Notice where the feeling lives in your body. Anger may feel like heat in the chest. Fear may tighten the stomach. Shame may weigh down the shoulders. Sadness may feel heavy in the heart. By observing these sensations and naming them, you honor your body's wisdom. Bessel van der Kolk, a pioneer in trauma research, said the body keeps the score. Listening to the body is listening to the truth of the emotion. Practice naming feelings daily. Start with simple moments, noticing when you are irritated by a sound, anxious about a meeting, or disappointed by a friend. Say silently, "This is irritation, this is anxiety, this is disappointment." You do not need to analyze or judge, you simply acknowledge. Over time, this practice strengthens your emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman emphasizes that emotional awareness builds intelligence and strengthens relationships. Naming the feeling also allows you to explore the underlying need. Anger may hide a need for respect or fairness. Fear may hide a need for safety or certainty. Sadness may hide a need for connection or care. Once the need is clear, you can respond consciously rather than react unconsciously. This step transforms triggers from obstacles into opportunities for self-understanding. It is normal to feel multiple emotions at once. You may feel anger mixed with sadness or fear mixed with frustration. Name each emotion without judgment. This nuanced awareness increases clarity and reduces overwhelm. By separating each emotion, you can address each need with presence and care. Naming feelings also improves communication. When you can articulate your emotions, you can express yourself honestly and clearly. Instead of blaming, yelling, or reacting impulsively, you can say, "I feel hurt, I feel frustrated, I feel anxious." Clear expression strengthens relationships and prevents conflicts from escalating. Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of nonviolent communication, emphasized the importance of naming and expressing feelings with clarity. Emotional awareness is not about eliminating feelings. It is about understanding and mastering them. Even difficult emotions like jealousy, resentment, or shame can be acknowledged, named, and transformed. Every emotion carries a message for you. It is a teacher showing what matters, what is unresolved, or what needs attention. When a trigger presses a button, practice the following steps. Notice the body's response. Pause and take a deep breath. Name the emotion. Acknowledge its presence without judgment. Ask what need or story is underlying this emotion. Decide consciously how to respond, rather than reacting automatically. Over time, naming the feeling becomes second nature. Triggers lose their overwhelming power. You become the observer, the chooser, and the responder. You begin to see patterns in your emotional life, which allows deeper insight and mastery. Compassion for yourself grows naturally because you recognize that all emotions are part of being human. Even intense anger, fear, or sadness is simply information. In the next chapter, we will explore how the body speaks first. Your body is always signaling before your mind reacts. Chapter 5 will guide you to listen to the body's messages, interpret physical signs, and use the body as an ally in mastering triggers. By combining awareness, pausing, and naming your emotions, you are building a foundation for deeper emotional freedom and conscious living. Chapter 5. The body speaks first. Before your mind understands what is happening, your body reacts. The body is the first messenger of triggers, signaling stress, danger, or unresolved emotions. Tension in the chest, rapid heartbeat, shallow breath, tight shoulders, or a knot in the stomach often appear before the mind can even label the emotion. These physical sensations are not random. They are information. They are your body's way of saying, "Pay attention, something is alive inside you." When a trigger is pressed, the body reacts faster than the mind. This is natural, because the nervous system evolved to protect you. Thousands of years ago, a sudden threat required immediate reaction. Fight or flight is a survival mechanism. Today, the threats may not be life-threatening, but the body reacts the same way. Anger, fear, or frustration arise instantly, and your mind joins afterward to create a story about the event. Awareness of the body is essential. The first step is noticing the physical signals early. A tight chest, heat in the face, clenched fists, shallow breathing. These are early warnings. By noticing them, you create the space to pause and respond consciously. The pause allows the mind to choose instead of react automatically. The body is also storing memories, past experiences, unresolved trauma, and repeated emotional patterns are held in the body. A word, a gesture, or a situation may trigger a reaction because it awakens these stored experiences. Bessel van der Kolk, a leading researcher on trauma, says the body keeps the score. By listening to your body, you access important information about yourself. Breathing is one of the most powerful tools for working with the body. When a trigger presses a button, the breath becomes fast, shallow, or irregular. Slowing the breath sends a message to the nervous system that you are safe. A deep inhale and a slow exhale bring the body and mind into balance. Breath anchors you in the present moment, reducing the intensity of the trigger. Movement and posture are also key signals. Notice if you tense your jaw, clench your fists, or straighten rigidly. These are expressions of the emotion before it reaches your mind. Gentle stretching, shaking the body, or relaxing your shoulders can release tension. The body and mind are connected. Calming the body helps calm the mind. Emotions often appear as physical sensations first. Fear may feel like cold or butterflies in the stomach. Anger may feel like heat in the face or tightness in the chest. Sadness may feel heavy in the heart or a lump in the throat. By observing the body, you can identify the emotion before it overwhelms you. It is important to practice body awareness daily. Notice your physical state throughout the day. Check in with your posture, breathing, heartbeat, and muscle tension. Even a few moments of awareness create a stronger connection between body and mind. Over time, the body becomes a reliable guide for emotional regulation. The body also signals needs. Hunger, fatigue, tension, or restlessness may show that self-care is required. Triggers are easier to manage when the body is balanced and cared for. Ignoring physical signals increases emotional reactivity. Listening to the body reduces the intensity of triggers and creates a foundation for conscious responses. Another essential point is that triggers can awaken old trauma stored in the body. Physical reactions may be more intense than the current situation warrants. Acknowledging the body's messages without judgment allows healing to begin. Notice sensations, breathe, and stay present. Over time, the body learns that it is safe and reactions become manageable. Famous teachers have emphasized the importance of listening to the body. Yoga and meditation traditions teach that the body is a doorway to consciousness. By paying attention to the body, you strengthen awareness, reduce reactivity, and create a harmonious connection between mind and body. Practical steps to work with the body include: notice physical sensations when a trigger appears. Pause and take deep, slow breaths. Observe where tension appears in the body. Label the emotion associated with the sensation. Gently release tension through movement or posture adjustment. Decide consciously how to respond, rather than react automatically. By honoring the body's wisdom, you gain early access to your emotions. You transform triggers into opportunities for growth and self-understanding. The body becomes an ally instead of a source of confusion or automatic reaction. When awareness, pausing, naming feelings, and listening to the body are combined, you begin a journey toward true mastery of your triggers. In the next chapter, we will explore how stories create suffering. Your mind creates narratives that intensify triggers, and Chapter 6 will guide you to question these stories, reduce unnecessary stress, and reclaim emotional freedom. Chapter 6. Stories create suffering. After noticing your body's signals, pausing, and naming your feelings, the next step in mastering triggers is understanding the stories your mind tells. Every trigger carries a story. The mind adds meaning, judgment, and expectation to simple events. A person's comment, a delayed response, or an unexpected situation becomes bigger than it actually is. The story exaggerates, distorts, and repeats old patterns from the past. Stories are powerful because the mind believes them. They are often unconscious, running in the background without your awareness. The mind whispers, "This is unfair. They do not respect me. I cannot tolerate this, or they are trying to hurt me." The story fuels the emotion, and the emotion fuels the story. Without awareness, you are trapped in a cycle of suffering. By noticing the story, you create distance from it. You are not the story. You are the observer of the story. This subtle shift reduces the intensity of the emotion and gives you clarity. By questioning the story, you find that much of your suffering is self-created. Byron Katie, a teacher of self-inquiry, emphasizes that believing your thoughts creates stress. Questioning the story is the key to freedom. Stories often repeat old beliefs. Beliefs about yourself, others, and the world are formed by experiences in childhood and throughout life. I am not enough. I must please others. People are untrustworthy. These beliefs influence how you perceive events. Triggers awaken these beliefs, and the mind automatically tells the story. Awareness and questioning weaken the power of the story. The first step is noticing the story as it arises. When a trigger appears, ask yourself, what is my mind saying right now? What story am I telling myself? Say it silently. Name it. See it clearly without judgment. Observation alone softens its power. The second step is questioning the story. Is it true? Am I assuming something that may not be accurate? Is there another explanation? What evidence do I have? By asking these questions, you create space for clarity. You are no longer controlled by automatic assumptions. The third step is reframing. Reframing does not mean denying reality. It means seeing the situation differently. Instead of, "They are disrespecting me," try, "They may not be aware," or "This is an opportunity to practice patience." Reframing transforms suffering into learning. It is a conscious choice to change perspective and reduce unnecessary pain. Stories also create emotional repetition. The same event may trigger the same old feelings over and over. By noticing and questioning the story, you break the cycle. You reduce the power of triggers and prevent the mind from creating additional suffering. Practical steps to work with stories. Notice the story that arises with a trigger. Observe it without judgment. Question its accuracy and assumptions. Reframe it with a perspective that reduces emotional intensity. Respond consciously rather than reacting automatically. Stories are not inherently bad. They help you make sense of the world, but unchecked, they create unnecessary suffering. By mastering your stories, you reclaim your emotional power and clarity. Suffering often comes from believing the story more than the reality. Reality is neutral. The mind adds judgment, fear, and expectation. Awareness, pausing, naming feelings, listening to the body, and questioning stories work together to reduce emotional reactivity. They are a system for mastering triggers. Over time, practicing these steps makes triggers less frightening and more manageable. You begin to see each trigger as a teacher. Every uncomfortable emotion shows you an area for growth. Every story reveals a belief or assumption that can be questioned. Through this process, emotional freedom grows. In the next chapter, we will explore choosing response instead of reaction. Chapter 7 will guide you to consciously act from clarity and awareness, turning triggers into opportunities for growth and conscious living. This step is where understanding and awareness transform into real-life mastery. Chapter 7. Choose response, not reaction. By now, you have learned to notice your triggers, observe your body, pause, name your emotions, and understand the stories your mind tells. The next step in mastering your triggers is learning to choose your response instead of reacting automatically. Reaction is impulsive, driven by old habits, and often fueled by unresolved emotions and unconscious stories. Response is conscious, deliberate, and aligned with awareness and values. When a trigger is pressed, your mind and body react immediately. Without choice, you may yell, blame, withdraw, or act impulsively. Later, you may feel regret, guilt, or shame. This is the power of reaction. It is fast, unconscious, and often destructive. Response, on the other hand, allows you to act from clarity, compassion, and wisdom. It is the conscious bridge between stimulus and action. The first step to choosing a response is the pause. The pause creates space between the event and your action. Even a few seconds can prevent impulsive behavior. During the pause, notice your physical sensations, name your emotions, and observe the story the mind is telling. This combination of awareness prepares you to respond consciously. The second step is reflection. Ask yourself, what is the most constructive action I can take here? What aligns with my values and long-term goals? How can I respond in a way that maintains calm, respect, and clarity? This reflection transforms difficult situations into opportunities for conscious living. Choosing a response also involves self-control and discipline. It is not easy at first. Old habits are strong and automatic. You may slip into reaction several times. Do not judge yourself for this. Every moment of conscious response strengthens your skill. Practice makes choosing response natural over time. Compassion plays a vital role. When you choose a response, you can consider the needs of others as well as your own. You may notice that the other person is acting from fear, stress, or old patterns. Compassion does not mean allowing harm. It means understanding and acting wisely, without being controlled by emotion. Dalai Lama teaches that compassion begins with self-awareness and extends naturally outward. Language is a powerful tool in choosing a response. When you speak from awareness, you prevent escalation. Instead of saying, "you always," "you never," or blaming words, try, "I feel," "I notice," or "I need." Clear and honest communication reduces conflict and strengthens relationships. Marshall Rosenberg emphasized the power of compassionate communication to transform difficult interactions. Responses are not only about words, actions matter. Sometimes responding consciously means taking a step back, breathing, or walking away to calm your mind. Other times, it means speaking honestly or setting a boundary. The key is that every action comes from awareness, not automatic reaction. Choosing a response also requires long-term perspective. Ask yourself, what outcome do I want in the long run? Reacting in anger may feel satisfying momentarily but damages relationships. Responding consciously may take effort but builds trust, respect, and emotional strength. Stoic philosophers taught that true power lies in mastery of the inner life, not control over external events. Practice is essential. Start with small triggers. Notice your impulse, pause, and choose a conscious response. Gradually, increase awareness in more challenging situations. Celebrate small successes, because each conscious response strengthens your freedom. Remember, response is a skill. It combines awareness, pausing, body listening, naming emotions, questioning stories, and compassion. Each step you practice adds to your capacity to respond consciously. Over time, choosing response becomes natural, and reactions lose their power. When you consistently choose response, life transforms. Triggers no longer control you. You act from clarity, alignment, and wisdom. Your relationships improve, your stress decreases, and your confidence grows. In the next chapter, we will explore compassion for yourself. Chapter 8 will guide you to treat yourself with understanding and gentleness, reduce self-judgment, and heal the inner wounds that make triggers more powerful. Compassion is the foundation for sustaining conscious responses and building emotional freedom. Chapter 8. Compassion for yourself. After learning to notice triggers, pause, name your emotions, and respond consciously, the next step is cultivating compassion for yourself. Many people are harsh with themselves when triggered. They say, "I should not feel this, I should be stronger, I am weak," or "Why do I always react like this?" This inner criticism only intensifies the trigger. It adds guilt, shame, and judgment to the original emotion. Compassion is the antidote. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is not making excuses or ignoring your actions. It is understanding that being human means having emotions, making mistakes, and reacting imperfectly. When a trigger arises, it is natural to feel anger, fear, sadness, or frustration. Judging yourself for these feelings only creates more suffering. By treating yourself with kindness, you reduce the intensity of triggers and create space for growth. Start by noticing your self-talk. Pay attention to the words you say to yourself in moments of stress. Are they harsh, critical, or shaming? Replace them with gentle, understanding language. Say silently, "It is okay to feel this. I am human. I am learning. I am doing my best." Even this simple acknowledgement softens emotional intensity and reduces reactivity. Self-compassion also involves caring for your body and mind. Triggers are easier to manage when you are well-rested, nourished, and calm. Notice physical tension, fatigue, or hunger. Attend to your needs before reacting. Even a short pause to breathe, stretch, or drink water is an act of self-kindness. By respecting your own needs, you strengthen your ability to respond consciously. Compassion includes understanding your past. Many triggers are connected to old wounds, childhood experiences, or unresolved pain. Rather than blaming yourself for these patterns, acknowledge that you are doing the best you can with the tools you have. Self-compassion allows healing and reduces the grip of old emotional patterns. It replaces self-criticism with understanding and growth. Meditation and mindfulness are powerful tools for cultivating self-compassion. During practice, notice thoughts and emotions without judgment. Imagine offering kindness to yourself as you would to a friend. Visualize a gentle presence supporting and holding you. Even a few minutes a day strengthens your emotional resilience and reduces reactivity. Compassion also means forgiving yourself. Forgive yourself for past reactions, mistakes, or missed opportunities. Forgiveness does not mean ignoring consequences. It means releasing unnecessary guilt and shame. Holding on to self-criticism fuels triggers and prevents growth. Nelson Mandela said resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The same is true for self-criticism. It harms you more than anyone else. Journaling is another practical way to cultivate self-compassion. Write down your triggers, your reactions, and your feelings. Then write a compassionate response to yourself. Acknowledge your humanity, your efforts, and your progress. This practice strengthens self-kindness and creates a safe inner environment for emotional growth. Self-compassion also improves relationships. When you are kind to yourself, you are less likely to react harshly toward others. Compassion for self naturally extends outward. It reduces blame, judgment, and defensiveness. You become a source of calm and understanding in difficult situations. Remember, cultivating self-compassion is a journey. It requires patience, practice, and repetition. There will be moments of struggle when triggers feel overwhelming. Do not give up. Every act of kindness toward yourself strengthens your emotional mastery. Practical steps to practice self-compassion include: notice your self-talk and replace harsh words with understanding ones. Attend to your physical and emotional needs. Pause and breathe when triggered. Acknowledge your feelings without judgment. Visualize kindness toward yourself. Forgive yourself for past reactions. Journal your emotions and respond with compassion. Self-compassion is the foundation of emotional mastery. It allows you to respond consciously, not reactively. It transforms triggers from sources of pain into opportunities for growth and self-understanding. By treating yourself with kindness, you build resilience, clarity, and freedom. In the next chapter, we will explore understanding your past. Chapter 9 will guide you to examine your experiences, uncover the roots of your triggers, and bring insight and healing to patterns that have controlled your emotions for years. By combining awareness, pausing, naming emotions, choosing responses, and practicing self-compassion, you are building a strong foundation for mastery of triggers and conscious living. Chapter 9. Understand your past. Triggers are often not about the present moment. They are echoes of your past, shadows of experiences that have shaped your beliefs, emotions, and reactions. When someone criticizes you, it may awaken memories of a teacher, parent, or friend who made you feel unworthy. When someone ignores you, it may remind you of rejection you felt long ago. Understanding your past is essential to mastering your triggers because it reveals the roots of your emotional reactions. The first step is observation. Notice when a trigger feels unusually intense. Ask yourself, why does this situation affect me so strongly? Is it the present event, or is it connected to something from my past? Many triggers are linked to early experiences that created emotional patterns. The mind stores these patterns to protect you, but they often react in ways that no longer serve you. Childhood experiences play a major role in forming triggers. The ways you were nurtured, criticized, rewarded, or ignored create deep impressions. If your emotions were dismissed, you may overreact when someone seems indifferent. If you were criticized, you may feel shame or anger more easily. These patterns are unconscious, but they shape your reactions to everyday events. Awareness of these patterns is the first step toward freedom. Understanding your past also involves exploring beliefs you formed early in life. I am not enough. I must please others. I am responsible for everyone's happiness. These beliefs may have been protective in childhood, but now create unnecessary suffering. Triggers often activate these beliefs, making you feel intense emotion over situations that are neutral in the present. By examining these beliefs, you can question them, challenge them, and weaken their control over your life. Journaling is a practical tool for exploring your past. Write down moments when triggers appear and reflect on possible connections to past experiences. Notice patterns, recurring themes, and early influences. Do not judge yourself for what you discover. Observation and acceptance, not criticism, are the keys to insight. Self-reflection is also essential. Ask yourself, what experiences shaped my responses? How have I reacted in similar situations before? What stories do I tell myself about these experiences? Reflection creates understanding and reduces the unconscious power of triggers. It is natural to feel discomfort when exploring the past. Some memories may be painful or shameful. Approach them gently, with self-compassion. Recognize that these experiences contributed to your growth and survival. By understanding them, you take control over their influence. Dalai Lama teaches that self-compassion and understanding are the foundation for healing. Family and cultural patterns also play a role. Expectations, rules, and norms from your upbringing shape how you perceive events and react to triggers. You may have inherited sensitivities to criticism, rejection, or failure. Awareness of these inherited patterns allows you to make conscious choices instead of reacting unconsciously. Understanding your past is not about blaming others or holding grudges. It is about insight. It is about recognizing that your reactions are learned and patterned, not fixed. You are not a victim of your past. You are an observer, a learner, and a chooser. By observing the connection between past experiences and present triggers, you gain power over your responses. Therapy, counseling, or guided self-inquiry can support this process. Professional guidance helps uncover deep patterns safely and constructively. Even self-reflection and journaling can bring remarkable clarity. The goal is not to relive the past, but to understand it, release its unnecessary control, and integrate its lessons. Practical steps for understanding your past include: notice which triggers feel intense and ask why. Reflect on early experiences and emotional patterns. Identify recurring beliefs formed in childhood. Journal your insights without judgment. Practice self-compassion as you uncover old wounds. Seek professional support if needed for deeper patterns. Understanding your past strengthens every previous step: awareness, pausing, naming feelings, responding consciously, and practicing self-compassion. It provides insight into why you react the way you do and gives the tools to change those reactions consciously. This understanding is the bridge between knowledge and mastery. In the next chapter, we will explore letting go of control. Chapter 10 will guide you to release the need to control outcomes, people, and situations, and show how acceptance reduces triggers, stress, and emotional reactivity. By combining awareness of the past with acceptance, you gain freedom in the present and prepare for conscious, intentional living. Chapter 10. Let go of control. Many triggers arise from the need to control people, situations, or outcomes. We want life to go a certain way, and when it does not, we react with anger, frustration, or fear. We may try to force others to behave as we expect, or we may struggle against circumstances we cannot change. This desire for control creates suffering because reality does not always align with our expectations. The first step in letting go of control is noticing where it shows up in your life. Ask yourself, in which situations do I try to control others or outcomes? Where do I feel frustrated, anxious, or resentful when things do not go as planned? This awareness allows you to identify patterns of control that fuel triggers. Acceptance is the antidote to the need for control. Acceptance does not mean passivity or giving up on your goals. It means recognizing reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. By accepting what is, you reduce the tension between expectation and reality, and triggers lose their power. When you release control, you create space to respond consciously rather than react impulsively. Letting go begins with your mind. Notice the thoughts that insist on control. They may say, "I must," "I should," or "they have to." These thoughts create stress and emotional reactivity. By observing and questioning them, you weaken their grip. Ask yourself, is it truly possible to control this? Is my desire for control helping or harming me? Is there another way to approach this situation? The body also signals when you are trying to control. Tension in the chest, clenched jaw, tight shoulders, and shallow breath often appear when we resist reality. Pausing and breathing into these sensations releases the need to control and brings calm. Awareness of body signals combined with conscious breathing is a powerful tool for reducing triggers. Letting go also involves releasing attachment to outcomes. You may desire a specific result in a situation or relationship. When reality does not match your expectation, triggers arise. By focusing on your intention and actions rather than controlling the result, you reduce emotional reactivity. This shift brings freedom and resilience. Practice is essential. Start with small situations. Allow someone to act differently than you expect. Notice your impulse to react. Pause, breathe, and choose acceptance. Gradually apply this approach to larger challenges. Over time, letting go becomes natural and triggers lose their intensity. Forgiveness is another aspect of releasing control. When someone harms you or behaves unfairly, your mind often wants revenge, judgment, or correction. Holding onto resentment keeps you trapped in emotional reaction. Forgiveness does not mean condoning the action. It means releasing your grip on the past and freeing yourself from emotional bondage. Dalai Lama teaches that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. Trust is essential in letting go. Trust that life has its own flow, that people will act according to their nature, and that outcomes are not always in your hands. Trust reduces fear, anxiety, and the need to control. It strengthens resilience and allows conscious responses instead of reactive ones. Surrender is not weakness. It is strength, courage, and wisdom. Surrender does not mean giving up your values or boundaries. It means accepting what you cannot change while acting with clarity in areas you can influence. This balance is the heart of emotional mastery. Journaling can support letting go. Write down situations where you feel the need to control and reflect on what is within your power and what is not. Notice emotional reactions and practice reframing with acceptance. Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to release control gracefully. Letting go also improves relationships. When you release the need to control, others feel safe, respected, and free. You reduce conflict, resentment, and tension. Your presence becomes calm and centered, even in challenging situations. Practical steps for letting go of control include: notice where control appears in your thoughts, body, and behavior. Pause and breathe when you feel the urge to control. Question your thoughts and assumptions. Focus on actions and intentions rather than outcomes. Practice forgiveness for yourself and others. Trust life's flow and act with clarity in what you can influence. By letting go of control, you reduce triggers, emotional reactivity, and unnecessary suffering. You reclaim freedom in your mind, body, and heart. This practice, combined with awareness, pausing, naming feelings, choosing responses, and self-compassion, strengthens your ability to live consciously. In the next chapter, we will explore training attention daily. Chapter 11 will guide you to focus your mind, strengthen presence, and use consistent practice to reduce distraction, strengthen awareness, and deepen mastery of triggers. With consistent training, your mind becomes a reliable ally, and emotional freedom becomes sustainable. Chapter 11. Train attention daily. Mastering your triggers requires more than awareness, pausing, naming feelings, choosing responses, and self-compassion. It also requires training your attention. The mind is naturally distracted, scattered, and reactive. Untrained attention allows triggers to hijack your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Training attention strengthens focus, presence, and conscious choice. It turns awareness into a consistent habit and makes mastery sustainable. Attention is like a muscle. When untrained, it wanders, reacts impulsively, and is easily pulled by triggers. When trained, it can observe, sustain focus, and choose responses deliberately. Daily attention practice rewires your mind. You become less controlled by automatic patterns and more in command of your emotional life. Start with small exercises. Notice your breath for a few minutes each day. Follow the inhale and exhale with your full attention. Whenever the mind wanders, gently bring it back. This simple practice strengthens the ability to observe triggers without immediately reacting. Even a few minutes a day builds awareness and control over time. Attention can also be trained in daily activities. When eating, notice the taste, texture, and aroma of your food. When walking, notice the movement of your legs, the sensation of your feet on the ground, and the rhythm of your breath. When speaking with others, notice their words, tone, and body language, without planning your next response. This practice of mindfulness trains the mind to stay present, reducing automatic reactivity. Triggers often hijack attention. A comment, gesture, or event pulls your focus toward the story, emotion, or judgment. By training attention, you learn to notice the trigger and shift focus to the present moment. This shift interrupts the automatic cycle of reaction. You observe the emotion without becoming it. You notice the story without believing it entirely. You regain control of your mind. Visualization is another powerful tool. Imagine a trigger arises and see yourself pausing, observing, naming the emotion, and responding consciously. Visualize staying calm, focused, and aware, no matter how intense the trigger feels. Mental rehearsal strengthens attention and trains the nervous system to respond skillfully in real situations. Consistency is key. Daily practice, even for a few minutes, produces lasting results. Neglect allows the mind to return to old reactive patterns. Consistency trains your attention to remain steady, even under pressure. Over time, attention becomes effortless and natural. Focus your attention on what matters. Notice your thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations. Notice when the mind drifts into judgment, blame, or worry. Bring it back to awareness. This practice strengthens emotional resilience, reduces unnecessary stress, and improves clarity in decision-making. Attention also strengthens self-discipline. You notice impulses before acting on them. You pause before reacting. You redirect your energy toward conscious action. Attention supports every previous step. Awareness, pausing, naming feelings, choosing responses, and self-compassion. Without focused attention, these practices are inconsistent and less effective. Journaling supports attention training. Write down moments when triggers arise. Notice your thoughts, bodily sensations, and emotions. Reflect on how attention affected your response. This practice strengthens focus and insight. Famous teachers have emphasized the power of attention. Buddha said, "Where attention goes, energy flows." If your attention flows toward reactive patterns, triggers gain strength. If your attention flows toward awareness and conscious choice, triggers lose their power. Attention determines the quality of your inner experience. Attention can also be used to cultivate gratitude and positive focus. Notice small joys, achievements, and kindness in daily life. Shifting attention toward what is supportive strengthens emotional resilience. You become less sensitive to unnecessary triggers and more aligned with your values. Practical steps to train attention daily include: notice your breath for several minutes each day. Practice mindfulness in simple daily activities. Observe triggers and bring attention to the present moment. Visualize conscious responses to triggers. Journal insights about attention and emotional patterns. Focus on positive experiences, gratitude, and intentional presence. Training attention daily strengthens the foundation for mastering triggers. It allows awareness, pausing, naming feelings, choosing responses, and self-compassion to become habitual. The mind becomes steady, focused, and aligned with conscious living. Triggers no longer dominate your inner world, because attention is directed by choice rather than reaction. In the next chapter, we will explore reframing the moment. Chapter 12 will guide you to shift perspective, change interpretation of events, and transform triggers into opportunities for learning, growth, and emotional freedom. By combining trained attention with reframing, you gain resilience, clarity, and mastery over your emotional life. Chapter 12. Reframe the moment. Triggers often feel overwhelming because we interpret events in a certain way. The mind tells a story about what is happening, why it is happening, and what it means about us or others. These interpretations shape our emotions and reactions. Reframing is the practice of changing how you perceive a situation so that you respond with clarity and calm, rather than being swept away by automatic reactions. Reframing does not mean denying reality or pretending everything is fine. It is about looking at the same event from a different perspective. Instead of seeing a comment as criticism, you might see it as feedback. Instead of seeing rejection as personal failure, you might see it as an opportunity to grow. Reframing changes the meaning, and changing meaning changes the emotion. The first step is awareness. Notice when a trigger arises and what story your mind is telling. Say silently, "This is the interpretation my mind is creating." Observe it without judgment. Ask yourself, is this the only way to see this situation? Is there another perspective that is calmer, wiser, or more compassionate? The second step is curiosity. Curiosity allows you to explore alternative interpretations. Ask questions like, what else could this mean? How might another person see this situation? What assumptions am I making that may not be true? Curiosity opens the mind and reduces the intensity of automatic emotional reactions. The third step is conscious choice. After exploring alternative perspectives, choose a reframe that serves your clarity, peace, and growth. This may not be easy at first. The mind is used to reacting automatically, interpreting events in ways that fuel anger, fear, or sadness. With practice, conscious reframing becomes natural and automatic. Reframing also involves separating facts from interpretations. Facts are neutral. Interpretations are created by the mind. A fact may be, they did not respond to my message. An interpretation may be, they do not care about me. By noticing the difference, you reduce unnecessary suffering and react more consciously. Breath and body awareness support reframing. When the body is tense and the mind is reactive, reframing is difficult. Pause, notice the physical signals, and breathe slowly. Calm the body first, then engage the mind in conscious perspective shifts. This combination is powerful in transforming triggers into opportunities for insight and growth. Reframing strengthens emotional resilience. Events that previously caused intense reactions become manageable. You develop the ability to see multiple perspectives and choose responses aligned with values rather than old patterns. This flexibility reduces stress, improves relationships, and fosters self-mastery. Journaling is a helpful tool for reframing. Write down the trigger, your initial interpretation, and your emotional reaction. Then write an alternative perspective and how it changes your feelings. This practice trains the mind to create conscious interpretations rather than automatic stories. Over time, reframing becomes habitual, and triggers lose their power to overwhelm. Famous thinkers have emphasized the power of perspective. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you interpret it that matters." By reframing, you take control of your inner experience. You no longer suffer because of events, but because of the story you tell yourself about them. Reframing also creates opportunities for learning. Triggers often reveal areas for growth, unmet needs, or unresolved beliefs. By changing perspective, you see these signals as lessons rather than threats. Every trigger becomes a teacher, every challenge a doorway to deeper awareness. Practical steps for reframing the moment include: notice when a trigger arises and the story your mind is telling. Observe without judgment. Ask, is this the only interpretation? Explore alternative perspectives with curiosity. Choose a reframe that aligns with clarity, peace, and growth. Notice how this changes your emotion and response. Reframing is most effective when combined with previous steps: awareness, pausing, naming feelings, listening to the body, choosing response, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, and training attention. Each step strengthens your capacity to see clearly and act consciously. In the next chapter, we will explore clean communication. Chapter 13 will guide you to express yourself honestly and clearly, reduce misunderstandings, and use language to support emotional mastery rather than escalate triggers. By combining reframing with conscious communication, you strengthen relationships, clarity, and emotional freedom. Chapter 13. Clean communication. Triggers often escalate when communication is unclear, reactive, or judgmental. Words carry immense power. They can soothe, clarify, and connect, or they can inflame, confuse, and divide. Clean communication is the practice of speaking with clarity, honesty, and intentionality, reducing misunderstandings and preventing triggers from controlling your relationships and emotions. The first step is awareness of your speech. Notice the words you choose, the tone you use, and the energy behind your communication. Reactive speech often comes from emotion rather than conscious choice. You may raise your voice, use blaming language, or speak from anger or frustration. These words escalate conflict and strengthen triggers, both for yourself and others. Clean communication begins with pause. Before responding, take a breath, notice your emotions, and choose your words deliberately. Ask yourself, will this statement help clarify the situation, express my feelings honestly, or create understanding? Or will it escalate tension, blame, or judgment? This pause ensures that speech is intentional rather than reactive. Next, focus on honesty and clarity. Speak your truth without exaggeration or distortion. Avoid assumptions, interpretations, or projecting intentions onto others. Instead of saying, "You never listen," try, "I feel unheard when you interrupt me." This communicates your experience clearly without blaming or attacking. Honesty builds trust, while clarity prevents miscommunication. Use I statements instead of you statements. This shifts communication from blame to personal experience. Say, "I feel frustrated. I notice hurt. I need support." This reduces defensiveness and invites understanding. Use statements such as "you always" or "you never," create resistance and escalate conflict. Marshall Rosenberg, creator of nonviolent communication, emphasized the power of expressing needs and feelings through I statements to foster empathy and connection. Active listening is essential for clean communication. Pay attention to the other person's words, tone, and body language. Reflect back what you hear without judgment. Say, "I hear that you are frustrated about this," or "I understand you feel stressed." Listening fully before responding reduces misunderstandings and prevents triggers from escalating into conflict. Nonverbal communication also matters. Your posture, facial expression, and gestures communicate as much as words. Relax your shoulders, soften your tone, and maintain an open presence. These subtle cues support understanding and reduce tension in yourself and others. Clean communication also involves timing. Choose when to speak carefully, especially during intense emotional moments. Sometimes it is wise to pause, breathe, and wait until emotions are calmer. Rushing to speak in the heat of emotion often leads to reactive statements that you may later regret. Practical steps for clean communication include: pause before speaking to observe emotions. Use I statements to express feelings and needs. Focus on honesty and clarity, avoiding blame or exaggeration. Listen actively, reflect understanding, and validate the other person's experience. Pay attention to nonverbal signals to support calm and clarity. Choose timing wisely, speaking when both parties can listen and respond constructively. Clean communication also requires self-compassion. Notice when you feel triggered during conversation. Pause, breathe, and remind yourself that emotions are natural. Respond with clarity rather than reacting impulsively. This reduces personal stress and strengthens the relationship. Reframing supports clean communication. By noticing your interpretations, questioning assumptions, and choosing perspective, you communicate more effectively. You respond to the present moment rather than reacting from old stories or past experiences. This integration of reframing and clean communication strengthens emotional mastery. Over time, practicing clean communication transforms relationships. You become a source of calm, understanding, and clarity. Triggers no longer dictate interactions, and conflicts are resolved more skillfully. Communication becomes a tool for emotional freedom rather than a source of tension. Practical exercises to strengthen clean communication include journaling your emotions and responses to conversations, practicing I statements in low-stress situations, role-playing conversations with focus on clarity and empathy, noticing physical signals of tension before speaking, pausing, breathing, and reframing before responding. Clean communication is not about perfection. It is about conscious effort, awareness, and practice. Every step, awareness, pausing, naming feelings, listening to the body, choosing response, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, and reframing, supports the ability to communicate clearly and skillfully. When communication is clean, triggers lose their power, relationships deepen, and your emotional freedom grows. In the next chapter, we will explore setting healthy boundaries. Chapter 14 will guide you to define limits that protect your emotional space, reduce triggers, and create healthier connections with yourself and others. By combining clean communication with clear boundaries, you strengthen both self-respect and relational harmony. Chapter 14. Set healthy boundaries. Triggers often arise when your personal limits are crossed, ignored, or threatened. Healthy boundaries are essential for protecting your emotional space, reducing triggers, and maintaining balanced relationships. Boundaries are not walls. They are clear guidelines that define what you will accept and what you will not. They allow you to engage with the world consciously, rather than reactively. The first step is awareness. Notice where your triggers occur most often. Are there people, situations, or behaviors that repeatedly provoke strong reactions? These are clues that boundaries may be needed. Awareness of triggers and patterns allows you to define limits that preserve your emotional well-being. Boundaries begin with self-respect. You must value your own needs, emotions, and limits before communicating them to others. Self-compassion supports this process. By recognizing that your emotional space matters, you create the foundation for healthy boundaries. Boundaries can be physical, emotional, or mental. Physical boundaries relate to space, touch, or personal possessions. Emotional boundaries involve protecting your feelings and energy. Mental boundaries concern thoughts, beliefs, and time. Each type is equally important in preventing triggers and maintaining balance. Communication is key to setting boundaries. State your limits clearly, calmly, and respectfully. Use I statements to express needs and expectations. For example, I feel overwhelmed when meetings run late, or I need space to process before discussing this topic. Clear communication reduces misunderstandings and prevents unnecessary emotional escalation. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about defining your own limits and taking responsibility for your well-being. When someone respects your boundary, it strengthens the relationship. When someone does not, it is a reflection of their choices, not a failure on your part. This understanding reduces personal triggers and emotional reactivity. Consistency is essential. Boundaries lose power if they are inconsistent or flexible to please others. Practice enforcing limits gently but firmly. Over time, consistent boundaries create a safe space for yourself and set clear expectations for others. Boundaries also involve saying no. Many triggers arise from overcommitment, people-pleasing, or fear of disappointing others. Learning to say no respectfully protects your time, energy, and emotional space. Saying no is not selfish. It is self-care. It allows you to show up fully for situations and relationships where you can engage consciously. Self-awareness supports boundaries. Notice when you feel drained, resentful, or reactive. These are signs that limits may be needed. Pause, reflect, and communicate your needs clearly. Boundaries create freedom, not restriction. They allow conscious engagement without emotional overwhelm. Boundaries also help reduce guilt and resentment. When limits are unclear, you may feel obligated to meet everyone's expectations. This leads to frustration, stress, and heightened triggers. By defining what you will accept and communicating it with compassion, you prevent unnecessary suffering. Practical steps to set healthy boundaries include: notice repeated triggers and situations where limits are crossed. Define what is acceptable and what is not in different areas of life. Communicate boundaries clearly using I statements. Be consistent in enforcing limits. Practice saying no with kindness and confidence. Reflect regularly on your boundaries and adjust them as needed. Boundaries are also a form of self-respect and self-compassion. By protecting your emotional space, you reduce triggers, increase clarity, and strengthen your ability to respond consciously. Healthy boundaries improve relationships because others know what to expect and interactions are based on mutual respect. Over time, setting boundaries becomes natural. You notice triggers earlier, communicate your needs clearly, and prevent unnecessary emotional escalation. Boundaries empower you to live consciously, make deliberate choices, and maintain emotional freedom. In the next chapter, we will explore practicing forgiveness. Chapter 15 will guide you to release resentment, heal emotional wounds, and transform triggers that arise from past hurts into opportunities for growth and inner peace. By combining healthy boundaries with forgiveness, you strengthen emotional resilience, clarity, and freedom. Chapter 15. Practice forgiveness. Triggers often arise from past hurts, disappointments, or betrayals. Holding on to resentment or anger gives power to these triggers, keeping you trapped in emotional reactivity. Forgiveness is the conscious choice to release the grip of past pain and reclaim your inner peace. It is not about condoning behavior or forgetting what happened. It is about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. The first step is acknowledging the hurt. Notice the emotion fully, without judgment or suppression. Name it, feel it, and accept that it is real. Suppressing pain only allows it to fester and resurface as triggers. By acknowledging hurt, you begin the process of releasing it consciously. Next, shift perspective. Consider that everyone acts from their own understanding, limitations, and experiences. Even those who hurt you are human, imperfect, and often unaware of their impact. This perspective does not excuse behavior, but it reduces the emotional charge that fuels triggers. Forgiveness also requires self-compassion. Sometimes the hardest forgiveness is for yourself. You may blame yourself for past mistakes or regret reactions to hurtful situations. By practicing self-forgiveness, you release guilt, shame, and self-criticism. You allow yourself to learn, grow, and respond more consciously in the future. Breath and mindfulness. Support forgiveness. When thinking about a past hurt, notice the tension in your body, the emotions that arise, and the thoughts that replay the story. Breathe deeply and acknowledge each sensation. Imagine releasing the anger or resentment with each exhale. Over time, this practice softens emotional intensity and weakens triggers connected to past pain. Journaling is another powerful tool. Write down the hurt, your emotional response, and the story you tell yourself. Then write a statement of forgiveness. It can be as simple as, "I release my anger, I forgive myself," or "I choose peace." Writing reinforces the conscious choice to let go and strengthens emotional freedom. Forgiveness also transforms relationships. You may not need to continue contact with someone who has hurt you, but releasing resentment frees you from emotional bondage. You no longer react automatically when memories arise. Your energy is no longer trapped in the past. This allows for clearer, calmer engagement in the present moment. Famous spiritual teachers emphasize the power of forgiveness. Buddha said, "Holding onto anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned." Nelson Mandela practiced forgiveness to heal a nation and himself. Forgiveness is a tool for emotional liberation. not weakness. It is natural to struggle with forgiveness. Emotions are strong, memories vivid, and old stories persistent. Start small. Practice forgiving minor hurts, daily annoyances, or old grievances that are less charged. Gradually work toward deeper hurts. Consistency and patience are key. Practical steps for practicing forgiveness include: acknowledge the hurt fully. Notice your emotional and physical reactions. Shift perspective to see the other person as human and fallible. Practice self-compassion and forgive yourself for past reactions. Use breath, mindfulness, or journaling to release emotional intensity. State consciously, "I choose to forgive and release this pain." Forgiveness does not erase consequences or remove lessons. It simply releases your attachment to the emotional charge, allowing you to respond with clarity, compassion, and conscious choice. Triggers lose power when you practice forgiveness consistently, because past wounds no longer dictate your reactions. Combining forgiveness with previous steps, awareness, pausing, naming feelings, listening to the body, choosing response, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, and boundaries, creates a robust system for emotional mastery. Forgiveness heals old wounds, reduces triggers, and strengthens inner freedom. Over time, forgiveness transforms your emotional landscape. You feel lighter, more present, and more capable of responding consciously to triggers. Your relationships improve, your mind becomes clearer, and your heart opens to compassion. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, a path to freedom, and a doorway to emotional mastery. In the next chapter, we will explore using breath as an anchor. Chapter 16 will guide you to harness the power of conscious breathing to calm the nervous system, release emotional tension, and respond to triggers with clarity, balance, and presence. By combining forgiveness with breath awareness, you strengthen your ability to remain grounded in any situation. Chapter 16. Use breath as anchor. Breath is one of the most powerful tools for mastering triggers. It is always present, always accessible, and directly connected to the nervous system. When a trigger arises, the body reacts first. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, and breath becomes shallow. The mind reacts second, often creating stories, judgment, or panic. By using the breath as an anchor, you can calm the body, focus the mind, and respond consciously rather than react automatically. The first step is awareness of breathing. Notice how you are breathing right now. Is it shallow, rapid, or uneven? Is your chest tight or your shoulders tense? Simply observing your breath without trying to change it creates a subtle shift in awareness. You begin to separate from the intensity of the trigger and notice it objectively. Next, use conscious breathing to stabilize the nervous system. Slow, deep inhalations fill the lungs and calm the heart rate. Exhalations release tension and signal safety to the body. Even a few deep breaths can reduce the intensity of the emotional response and create space for conscious choice. Breath becomes a bridge between reaction and response. There are several techniques that strengthen breath as an anchor. Box breathing is one example. Inhale slowly for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and repeat. This creates rhythm, focus, and stability. Alternate nostril breathing balances the nervous system, calming stress and improving clarity. Even simple awareness of the rise and fall of the abdomen or chest is effective in grounding attention. Using breath as an anchor works in real time with triggers. When someone says something hurtful, when a situation is unfair, or when past memories resurface, pause and bring attention to your breath. Notice its depth, rhythm, and sensation. Even a few cycles create distance from emotional intensity. The trigger no longer hijacks the mind completely. You gain the ability to respond consciously. Breath also supports emotional regulation. Anger, fear, and anxiety often feel overwhelming because the body is in fight, flight, or freeze mode. Conscious breathing signals to the nervous system that it is safe to relax. This physiological shift reduces the intensity of the emotion and allows the mind to function more clearly. Training attention and breath together amplifies results. Notice your breath during daily activities, meditation, or in response to mild triggers. Build the habit of returning to the breath whenever distraction, stress, or emotional intensity arises. Over time, breath becomes a natural anchor, available whenever you need it. Visualization can enhance breath practice. Imagine inhaling calm, clarity, and focus. Exhale tension, anger, and reactive energy. Visualize the nervous system softening with each breath. This combination of attention, awareness, and visualization strengthens emotional control. Breath anchors also support self-compassion. When emotions are triggered, it is easy to judge yourself for reacting. Pausing to breathe and notice sensations softens self-criticism. You acknowledge that you are human, that emotions are natural, and that you are learning mastery. This gentle approach reduces triggers over time. Journaling can complement breath work. Record moments when triggers arise, how your body responds, and how conscious breathing changes your experience. Reflect on patterns, improvements, and insights. This reinforces the practice and strengthens connection between awareness and physiological regulation. Famous teachers emphasize breath as a tool for mastery. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "Peace begins with the breath." Yogic traditions teach that prana, the life force, flows through breath, balancing body and mind. Modern neuroscience confirms that controlled breathing modulates the nervous system and reduces stress. Breath is a bridge between mind, body, and conscious choice. Practical steps for using breath as an anchor include: notice your breath whenever a trigger arises. Pause and take slow, deep inhalations. Exhale fully and release tension. Use techniques like box breathing, alternate nostril breathing, or abdominal awareness. Visualize calm and release with each breath. Practice consistently, even when triggers are mild, to strengthen automatic access. Using breath as an anchor transforms triggers from overwhelming experiences into manageable signals. It allows you to respond with clarity, compassion, and alignment with your values. Combined with awareness, pausing, naming feelings, choosing responses, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, and boundaries, breath completes a powerful toolkit for emotional mastery. In the next chapter, we will explore observing patterns over time. Chapter 17 will guide you to notice recurring triggers, emotional cycles, and behavioral habits, allowing insight, prevention, and conscious transformation. By combining breath awareness with observation of patterns, mastery becomes deeper, sustainable, and more effortless. Chapter 17. Observe patterns over time. Triggers rarely appear randomly. They follow patterns, repeating in specific situations, with particular people, or in response to certain thoughts or sensations. Observing these patterns is a crucial step in mastering triggers. When you recognize recurring cycles, you gain insight into your emotional landscape, and you can intervene consciously before reactions escalate. The first step is tracking triggers. Keep a journal of moments when you feel intense emotion. Note the situation, the person involved, your thoughts, bodily sensations, and your response. Over days, weeks, or months, patterns begin to emerge. You may notice that certain people, environments, or topics consistently activate strong reactions. Observation requires honesty and curiosity. Do not judge yourself for repeated reactions. Patterns exist to guide you, not to shame you. Approach your journal with the mindset of a scientist observing data. Ask, what is consistent across these moments? What do I feel, think, or do when triggered? Curiosity transforms insight into actionable knowledge. Patterns often reveal underlying beliefs and stories. For example, repeated anger in relationships may indicate fear of rejection or belief that you are not respected. Repeated anxiety in professional situations may point to a story about competence or approval. By observing these patterns, you connect triggers to deeper emotional and cognitive roots, making conscious change possible. Body signals also follow patterns. Notice physical sensations that precede or accompany triggers. Tension in the chest, clenched jaw, rapid heartbeat, or shallow breathing. Body awareness allows you to detect triggers early, sometimes even before the conscious mind recognizes them. Early detection provides a window for conscious response, rather than automatic reaction. Observation also includes timing and environment. Do triggers appear at certain times of day, during specific activities, or after particular events? Do they increase under stress, fatigue, or hunger? Noticing these environmental and situational factors helps you prepare, adapt, and reduce reactivity. Journaling patterns over time provides perspective. You begin to see that triggers are not chaotic or random, but connected to your history, beliefs, and environment. This perspective reduces the sense of being controlled by emotions. You understand that reactions are learned and patterned, not permanent. You gain agency and the ability to intervene consciously. Patterns also reveal progress. Tracking your responses over time shows improvement, even if small. Moments when you pause, breathe, reframe, or respond consciously become easier and more frequent. Observing this growth strengthens confidence and motivation to continue practice. Reflection is essential. Regularly review your journal or mental notes. Ask, what do these patterns reveal about my triggers, beliefs, and values? Where am I improving, and where do old habits persist? Reflection transforms observation into insight, creating the foundation for intentional change. Patterns also guide preventive strategies. When you notice recurring triggers, you can plan interventions in advance. For example, if fatigue increases irritability, prioritize rest. If certain topics provoke stress, practice reframing or clean communication beforehand. Observation allows proactive mastery rather than reactive struggle. Famous psychologists and spiritual teachers emphasize pattern recognition. Carl Jung taught that unconscious patterns repeat until they are brought to conscious awareness. Buddha observed that suffering arises from habitual reactions. Recognizing patterns breaks the automatic cycle and transforms triggers into opportunities for growth. Practical steps for observing patterns over time include: keep a journal of triggers, thoughts, emotions, body sensations, and responses. Review entries regularly to notice recurring themes. Identify environmental, relational, and situational factors. Reflect on underlying beliefs or stories that fuel patterns. Note improvements and successful conscious responses. Use insights to plan interventions and reduce future triggers. Observation over time strengthens all previous practices. Awareness, pausing, naming feelings, body listening, choosing responses, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, and breath awareness. It transforms reactive living into conscious mastery. Patterns guide insight, strategy, and emotional freedom. In the next chapter, we will explore reducing stimulation. Chapter 18 will guide you to simplify your environment, limit distractions, and manage inputs that amplify triggers, creating clarity, calm, and space for conscious choice. By combining pattern observation with environmental management, emotional mastery becomes more natural and sustainable. Chapter 18. Reduce stimulation. Modern life bombards the mind and senses with constant stimulation. Notifications, social media, news, noise, crowded spaces, and multitasking overwhelm the nervous system. When the mind is overstimulated, triggers intensify. Small annoyances feel unbearable, stress increases, and reactions become automatic rather than conscious. Reducing stimulation is a practical and powerful step toward emotional mastery. The first step is awareness. Notice when your environment or activities leave you feeling tense, irritable, or exhausted. Observe how external inputs affect your emotional state and your triggers. Awareness allows you to identify which stimuli are necessary, which are optional, and which are harmful. Decluttering your environment supports calm and focus. Physical clutter creates mental clutter. A messy workspace, overflowing notifications, or chaotic surroundings increase stress and vulnerability to triggers. Simplify your environment by removing unnecessary objects, organizing your space, and creating zones of calm. A clean, orderly environment fosters a clear mind and reduces reactive tendencies. Digital stimulation is a major source of overwhelm. Constant notifications, scrolling feeds, and multitasking pull attention in multiple directions. Set boundaries with technology. Turn off unnecessary alerts, schedule focused periods without devices, and prioritize activities that align with your values. Even brief periods of digital detox restore focus, calm, and clarity. Noise and social stimulation also contribute. Crowded spaces, loud environments, or constant social interaction can heighten reactivity. Seek quiet moments, nature, or solitude to recharge. Reducing external noise helps you connect with your body, breath, and mind, allowing triggers to be noticed and managed calmly. Mindful consumption of information is essential. News, social media, and conversations can introduce emotional triggers indirectly. Choose what you consume intentionally. Limit exposure to negativity, drama, or gossip that fuels anxiety, anger, or frustration. Feed your mind with content that supports growth, calm, and conscious living. Simplifying routines reduces stress. Overloaded schedules create pressure, fatigue, and impatience. Triggers become more intense when the nervous system is taxed. Prioritize essential tasks, delegate what you can, and create time for rest, reflection, and mindfulness. Simplicity strengthens resilience and capacity to respond consciously. Breath and body awareness amplify the effects of reduced stimulation. When external input is minimized, you can focus inward. Notice tension, heartbeat, or shallow breathing. Use breath as an anchor to stay present and prevent old reactive patterns from dominating your mind. Boundaries play a critical role. Protect your time, energy, and emotional space. Say no to demands that create overwhelm. Communicate limits respectfully and consistently. Boundaries reduce external pressure and allow space for conscious response. Observation of patterns also connects with reducing stimulation. Notice which stimuli consistently amplify triggers. Plan interventions. Create quiet periods, limit exposure, or reframe interpretation. Over time, you learn to navigate external inputs without unnecessary reactivity. Famous teachers emphasize simplicity and calm. Lao Tzu taught that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Thich Nhat Hanh emphasized mindful presence over constant activity. Reducing stimulation is not avoidance. It is creating the internal space necessary for mastery, clarity, and conscious choice. Practical steps for reducing stimulation include: declutter physical spaces to create calm, limit digital notifications and social media, seek quiet environments and nature, simplify routines and prioritize rest, observe patterns of triggers connected to overstimulation, set boundaries to protect your time, energy, and emotional space. Use breath and mindfulness to anchor attention amidst inputs. Reducing stimulation strengthens all previous practices. Awareness, pausing, naming feelings, body listening, choosing response, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, and observing patterns. A calmer mind, less distracted by external input, responds more skillfully to triggers. Mastery becomes more natural, sustainable, and enjoyable. In the next chapter, we will explore building emotional strength. Chapter 19 will guide you to develop resilience, courage, and inner stability, equipping you to face triggers with confidence, clarity, and conscious choice. By combining reduced stimulation with emotional strength, you create a foundation for lasting mastery over triggers and a more peaceful, intentional life. Chapter 19. Build emotional strength. Mastering triggers requires more than awareness, breath, and boundaries. It requires emotional strength, the inner capacity to remain steady, resilient, and balanced even when challenges arise. Emotional strength is not suppression of feelings. It is the ability to experience emotions fully while responding consciously rather than reacting impulsively. It allows you to face triggers without being overwhelmed. The first step is self-awareness. Notice your emotional responses without judgment. Identify which triggers provoke intense reactions and why. Awareness provides insight into your emotional patterns and highlights areas where strength can be cultivated. Without awareness, emotional reactions operate unconsciously, leaving you vulnerable to repeated patterns. Next, cultivate self-compassion. Being emotionally strong does not mean harshness or rigidity. It means accepting your human imperfections and responding with kindness to yourself. Self-compassion reduces shame, guilt, and frustration when triggers arise, making resilience more sustainable. Building emotional strength also involves practicing emotional regulation. Use tools like breath, mindfulness, and reframing to manage intense feelings. Pause before responding, name your emotion, and choose a conscious action. With consistent practice, the intensity of emotional reactions diminishes and stability grows. Physical health supports emotional strength. Adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and regular movement influence the nervous system and emotional balance. A well-cared-for body is less reactive to stress and more capable of supporting conscious responses. Ignoring physical needs weakens resilience and amplifies triggers. Emotional strength grows through facing challenges rather than avoiding them. When you confront difficult situations with awareness and conscious choice, your capacity to tolerate discomfort and remain centered increases. Each challenge faced mindfully strengthens resilience, making future triggers easier to navigate. Boundaries support emotional strength. Clear limits protect your energy and prevent unnecessary overwhelm. Boundaries are not walls. They are tools for maintaining integrity and self-respect. Consistently enforcing boundaries builds confidence, reduces reactive responses, and strengthens inner stability. Mindset also plays a crucial role. Viewing challenges and triggers as opportunities for growth cultivates resilience. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this? What does this moment teach me about myself, my patterns, or my values?" A growth-oriented mindset transforms triggers into teachers rather than threats. Journaling reinforces emotional strength. Record triggers, emotional responses, and conscious choices. Reflect on progress and areas for improvement. Tracking growth strengthens confidence and motivation to continue practice. Social support matters. Healthy relationships provide perspective, empathy, and encouragement. Connecting with people who respect your boundaries, communicate cleanly, and support your growth strengthens emotional resilience. Conversely, toxic or overly reactive environments can weaken stability, so awareness of relational influences is key. Famous teachers highlight the importance of inner strength. Viktor Frankl, who survived extreme adversity, wrote that we cannot always control circumstances, but we can control our responses. Brené Brown teaches that courage and vulnerability are foundations of emotional strength. Inner strength is a balance of resilience, self-awareness, and conscious choice. Practical steps for building emotional strength include: notice and observe emotional responses. Practice self-compassion in moments of difficulty. Use breath, mindfulness, and reframing to regulate emotions. Care for your body through sleep, nutrition, and movement. Face challenges consciously to build resilience. Enforce boundaries consistently. Adopt a growth-oriented mindset. Journal insights and track progress. Seek supportive relationships that reinforce stability and conscious living. Emotional strength transforms triggers from overwhelming experiences into manageable signals. It allows conscious choice, even in high-stress situations. By combining emotional strength with awareness, pausing, naming feelings, listening to the body, choosing responses, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, breath, observation, and reduced stimulation, you create a robust foundation for lasting mastery over triggers. In the next chapter, we will explore choosing your environment. Chapter 20 will guide you to curate spaces, people, and circumstances that support emotional balance, reduce unnecessary triggers, and strengthen conscious living. By combining emotional strength with intentional environment, mastery becomes practical, sustainable, and deeply empowering. Chapter 20. Choose your environment. Your environment profoundly influences your triggers, emotional state, and ability to respond consciously. People, spaces, routines, and sensory inputs all shape your mind and body. Even small environmental factors can amplify stress, increase reactivity, and fuel triggers. Conversely, intentional environments support calm, clarity, and emotional mastery. The first step is awareness. Notice how different spaces, people, and situations affect your emotions. Do you feel drained around certain individuals or in particular settings? Do specific environments create tension, impatience, or agitation? Awareness allows you to identify triggers rooted in surroundings rather than only internal patterns. People are a major part of your environment. Relationships influence emotional balance. Supportive, respectful, and understanding people reinforce calm and conscious responses. Toxic, manipulative, or highly reactive individuals increase triggers and stress. While you cannot always control who is in your life, you can choose the extent of exposure and the energy you allow to influence you. Boundaries and selective engagement become critical tools for maintaining emotional stability. Physical spaces matter. Cluttered, noisy, or chaotic environments increase cognitive load and emotional reactivity. Calm, organized, and aesthetically pleasing spaces support focus, relaxation, and presence. Simple changes like reducing clutter, adjusting lighting, or creating quiet zones improve your capacity to respond rather than react. Digital environments also affect triggers. Social media, news feeds, emails, and constant notifications overload attention and amplify stress. Curate your digital inputs consciously. Limit exposure to negativity, drama, or content that fuels judgment, comparison, or anxiety. Prioritize content that informs, inspires, or aligns with your values. Even short periods of digital detox create space for calm and conscious reflection. Routines shape emotional resilience. High-pressure schedules, multitasking, and overcommitment reduce energy and increase vulnerability to triggers. Simplify daily routines. Prioritize essential tasks, and create time for reflection, mindfulness, and self-care. Structured routines that align with values and energy levels support emotional mastery. Nature and sensory inputs also influence state of mind. Natural light, fresh air, greenery, and quiet spaces reduce stress and support clarity. Conversely, excessive noise, artificial lights, and crowded spaces increase reactivity. Regular exposure to calming, restorative environments strengthens emotional resilience and reduces trigger intensity. Choosing your environment does not mean avoiding challenges. It means intentionally selecting circumstances that support conscious living whenever possible. When avoidance is not possible, preparation becomes essential. Pause, breathe, reframe, and use awareness to navigate unavoidable stressors. Observation and pattern recognition support environmental choice. Notice which environments consistently trigger reactivity. Notice where calm, focus, and presence flourish. Gradually, Curate your environment to favor triggers that provide learning opportunities and reduce unnecessary overwhelm. Famous teachers emphasize environment for mastery. Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Buddha taught the importance of mindful surroundings to support inner peace and meditation. Your environment can either strengthen mastery or challenge it repeatedly. Choosing wisely is a key step toward emotional freedom. Practical steps to choose your environment include: observe how spaces, people, routines, and inputs affect your emotions. Create physical spaces that are organized, calm, and supportive. Curate relationships with people who reinforce calm, respect, and conscious living. Limit exposure to digital overstimulation and negativity. Simplify routines to preserve energy and focus. Include nature or restorative sensory experiences regularly. Use awareness and preparation to navigate unavoidable triggers consciously. Choosing your environment strengthens all previous practices. Awareness, pausing, naming feelings, body listening, choosing response, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, breath, observation of patterns, and reduced stimulation. When your surroundings support clarity and calm, triggers are easier to manage, conscious living becomes natural, and emotional mastery becomes sustainable. In the next chapter, we will explore turning triggers into teachers. Chapter 21 will guide you to see triggers not as obstacles, but as opportunities for insight, growth, and deeper awareness. Chapter 21. Turn triggers into teachers. Triggers are often seen as obstacles, annoyances, or sources of stress. Yet they are among the most valuable tools for self-understanding and personal growth. Each trigger carries a message, a signal pointing to unresolved emotions, hidden beliefs, or unconscious patterns. By shifting perspective, triggers can become teachers, guiding you to greater awareness, emotional mastery, and conscious living. The first step is awareness. Notice when a trigger arises and what it evokes in you. Observe thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations without judgment. Pause, breathe, and name the feeling. This observation transforms a reactive moment into a learning opportunity. Next, reflect on the underlying message. Ask yourself, what is this trigger revealing about me? Which beliefs, past experiences, or unmet needs are being activated? For example, if criticism triggers anger, it may reveal a deep belief about self-worth or fear of rejection. If impatience arises, it may reveal expectations that are unrealistic or unexamined. The trigger becomes a doorway into self-awareness. Reframing enhances learning. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me? What can I learn about my reactions, values, or patterns?" This shift from victimhood to curiosity turns challenges into opportunities. Each trigger is a mirror, reflecting the mind and emotions. By looking closely, insight emerges, guiding conscious choice. Triggers are also teachers of presence. When a trigger arises, it pulls attention to the present moment, demanding awareness. By practicing breath, pausing, and observing the body, triggers become invitations to mindfulness. You learn to remain steady amid discomfort, cultivating emotional resilience. Patterns reveal lessons over time. Notice recurring triggers and emotional cycles. Each repetition indicates an area needing attention, growth, or healing. Patterns highlight beliefs, unresolved emotions, and habits that keep you reactive. Observation allows proactive change rather than reactive struggle. Self-compassion is crucial. Learning from triggers does not mean criticizing yourself for past reactions. Treat each triggered moment as a chance to understand and support yourself. Forgive past mistakes, release guilt, and approach triggers with curiosity rather than judgment. This mindset transforms triggers into constructive experiences. Boundaries and environment support this process. Some triggers occur due to overstimulation, toxic relationships, or unhealthy environments. By creating space, reducing unnecessary stress, and setting limits, you can engage with triggers consciously rather than be overwhelmed by them. Triggers do not disappear, but your ability to learn from them grows. Journaling deepens the teaching process. Write down the trigger, your initial reaction, the underlying patterns, and the lesson learned. Reflect on progress and insights over time. This practice strengthens memory, reinforces learning, and builds conscious awareness of emotional patterns. Famous thinkers highlight the value of using challenges as teachers. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Epictetus taught that events are neutral. It is our judgments that create suffering. Triggers, when observed, reflect unconscious patterns and provide a path to mastery. Practical steps for turning triggers into teachers include: notice the trigger fully and pause. Observe thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations. Name the feeling and reflect on underlying beliefs or unmet needs. Reframe the moment as a learning opportunity. Record insights in a journal and review patterns over time. Practice self-compassion and forgiveness. Use breath, mindfulness, and awareness to remain present. Leverage supportive boundaries and environments to engage consciously. By turning triggers into teachers, each challenging moment becomes an opportunity for growth. Emotional reactivity diminishes because triggers no longer dominate your attention. You learn, adapt, and respond consciously, strengthening mastery over time. Combined with awareness, pausing, naming feelings, body listening, choosing responses, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, breath, observation, reduced stimulation, and intentional environment. This practice completes a comprehensive approach to mastery. In the next chapter, we will explore living from values. Chapter 22 will guide you to align actions, choices, and reactions with your core principles, creating coherence, clarity, and emotional freedom. By combining triggers as teachers with values-based living, every challenge becomes meaningful and every decision intentional. Chapter 22. Live from values. Triggers often reveal a disconnect between your actions and your core values. When you react automatically or allow emotions to dictate behavior, you step away from conscious living. Living from values means aligning thoughts, words, and actions with your deepest principles, creating clarity, integrity, and emotional freedom. Values act as a compass, guiding responses to triggers and shaping your choices consistently. The first step is identifying your core values. Reflect on what truly matters to you. What principles define your character? What qualities do you admire in others and wish to embody yourself? Common values include honesty, compassion, integrity, respect, courage, patience, and kindness. List the values that resonate most deeply and commit to them consciously. Next, connect triggers to values. Notice when triggers arise and which values feel compromised in those moments. For example, if impatience triggers frustration, the value of patience is being challenged. If criticism triggers defensiveness, the value of honesty, openness, or humility may be engaged. Triggers are indicators of moments where values can guide conscious choice. Pause, breathe, and respond, according to values rather than reaction. When you act from values, decisions reflect intentionality rather than impulse. Even in difficult situations, grounding responses in core principles creates consistency, integrity, and self-respect. This approach reduces guilt, regret, and emotional turbulence. Reframing supports values-based living. Instead of seeing a trigger as unfair or harmful, ask, how can I respond aligned with my values? This shift from judgment to conscious choice transforms challenges into meaningful practice. It allows triggers to teach, guide, and reinforce your principles. Consistency matters. Values-based living is strengthened through repeated practice. especially in small daily moments. Simple choices, how you speak, respond, or interact, accumulate into habits that reflect integrity. Over time, living from values becomes natural, reducing susceptibility to triggers and reactive patterns. Boundaries and environment reinforce values alignment. Choose surroundings, relationships, and routines that support your principles. Limit exposure to influences that encourage compromise of your core beliefs or trigger habitual reactions. Environment acts as a mirror, reflecting and reinforcing the values you intend to embody. Self-compassion is integral. Living from values does not require perfection. You may falter, react, or slip into old habits. Observe these moments with kindness, learn from them, and realign consciously. The practice itself is growth, and awareness of deviation strengthens mastery. Journaling strengthens values-based action. Record triggers, responses, and whether choices reflected your principles. Note insights, lessons, and successes. Tracking alignment over time builds clarity, reinforces intentional living, and strengthens emotional resilience. Famous teachers emphasize values in navigating challenges. Stephen Covey wrote, "Live with integrity, with principles guiding your daily choices." Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, reminded that virtue, not external events, defines the life well lived. By responding to triggers through the lens of values, life becomes coherent, meaningful, and aligned. Practical steps to live from values include: identify core principles and commit to them consciously. Observe triggers and notice which values are engaged. Pause, breathe, and respond intentionally aligned with values. Reframe challenges as opportunities to practice principles. Create environments and boundaries that reinforce values. Practice self-compassion when mistakes occur and realign intentionally. Journal insights to strengthen awareness and growth over time. Living from values transforms triggers into meaningful practice. Emotional reactivity diminishes because actions are guided by principles rather than impulses. You cultivate consistency, integrity, and inner freedom. Values guide decisions, responses, and relationships, creating coherence in life even when external circumstances are unpredictable. Combined with awareness, pausing, naming feelings, body listening, choosing response. Self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, breath, observing patterns, reduced stimulation, emotional strength, and environmental choice. Values-based living completes a framework for sustainable mastery over triggers. In the next chapter, we will explore practicing daily reflection. Chapter 23 will guide you to integrate experiences, observe progress, and learn continuously. By combining values-based living with reflection, every day becomes an opportunity for insight, growth, and conscious mastery. Chapter 23. Practice daily reflection. Triggers are lessons waiting to be understood. Daily reflection is the practice of reviewing experiences, emotions, and responses to gain insight and strengthen conscious mastery. It transforms reactive living into intentional growth and provides clarity, perspective, and emotional resilience. Through reflection, triggers become guides, lessons, and opportunities to practice awareness, breath, self-compassion, and values-based living. The first step is creating a routine. Set aside time each day for reflection, even if only a few minutes. Choose a quiet space, free from distractions, where you can observe your thoughts and emotions clearly. Consistency reinforces habit and deepens understanding over time. Begin with awareness of triggers. Recall moments when you felt reactive, frustrated, or emotionally charged. Notice what happened, how you responded, and what emotions or bodily sensations arose. Ask, what triggered me, and why did it have such an impact? Reflection transforms immediate reactions into conscious learning moments. Observe patterns and lessons. Are there recurring triggers, emotions, or situations? Do certain people, environments, or thoughts consistently provoke reactions? Patterns reveal unconscious beliefs, habits, and stories that influence behavior. By noticing repetition, you gain the ability to intervene proactively rather than reactively. Self-compassion enhances reflection. Avoid harsh judgment for reactions or mistakes. See each response as data, not failure. A kind, curious mindset strengthens learning, emotional resilience, and mastery over time. Forgive yourself for lapses, celebrate conscious choices, and commit to growth. Connect reflection to values. Ask, did my responses align with my principles? Where did I act from awareness, integrity, and intention? Where did old patterns or reactive impulses dominate? Values-based reflection reinforces consistency, integrity, and conscious choice. Use breath and body awareness during reflection. Notice tension, heart rate, or shallow breathing as you recall emotional moments. Breathe deeply and observe sensations without resistance. This anchors awareness in the present and prevents reflection from becoming overwhelming or self-critical. Journaling supports the practice. Record triggers, responses, patterns, insights, and lessons learned. Include observations about physical sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Over time, the journal becomes a powerful resource to track growth, recognize progress, and reinforce conscious mastery. Revisit previous entries to notice improvements and identify recurring challenges. Reflection also strengthens planning and proactive strategies. Based on insights, decide how to respond differently in future situations. Plan interventions like pausing, breath, reframing, or boundaries to handle similar triggers more consciously. This integration of reflection and action ensures learning is applied, not just observed. Famous teachers emphasize reflection as a path to mastery. Socrates said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." Buddha taught mindfulness and observation as keys to liberation from suffering. Daily reflection transforms experiences, including triggers, into lessons that guide conscious, purposeful living. Practical steps for daily reflection include: set aside a consistent time and space each day. Recall emotional moments and triggers. Observe thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations. Identify patterns and recurring triggers. Evaluate alignment with values and principles. Practice self-compassion and forgiveness. Record insights, lessons, and progress in a journal. Plan conscious interventions for the future. Review previous reflections to reinforce learning and growth. Daily reflection strengthens all previous practices. Awareness, pausing, naming feelings, body listening, choosing responses, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, breath, observing patterns, reduced stimulation, emotional strength, environmental choice, and values-based living. It creates continuity, coherence, and intentional mastery over triggers, making growth cumulative and sustainable. Over time, reflection transforms your experience of life. You become more aware, calm, and capable of responding consciously. Triggers lose their power to dictate emotions or reactions. Your decisions, words, and actions increasingly reflect clarity, integrity, and alignment with your values. Daily reflection turns every day into an opportunity for learning, adaptation, and emotional freedom. In the next chapter, we will explore freedom through mastery. Chapter 24 will guide you to integrate all practices, embody conscious living, and experience liberation from the automatic control of triggers. By combining awareness, breath, self-compassion, reflection, values, and all previous tools, mastery becomes not just a goal, but a lived reality, offering freedom, clarity, and peace. Chapter 24. Freedom through mastery. Mastery over triggers is the final step in emotional liberation. It is the integration of awareness, pausing, naming feelings, body listening, conscious responses, self-compassion, understanding your past, letting go of control, training attention, reframing, clean communication, boundaries, forgiveness, breath, observing patterns, reduced stimulation, emotional strength, environmental choice, values-based living, and daily reflection. When practiced consistently, these tools create freedom from automatic reactions and a life of conscious choice. Freedom begins with awareness. You notice triggers without judgment, observing thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations as they arise. Pausing before responding creates space for conscious choice rather than reactive patterns. Breath anchors you, reducing the intensity of emotions and allowing clarity to emerge. Body awareness signals early warning signs, giving time to respond intentionally. Mastery also involves understanding your past and letting go of control. You release old wounds, resentments, and the illusion that you must manage everything externally. Forgiveness, both for yourself and others, dissolves emotional burdens. Boundaries, reduced stimulation, and environmental choices protect your energy and reinforce conscious living. Every tool works in harmony to create resilience, calm, and clarity. Patterns become teachers. Triggers no longer dominate attention because you observe them, learn from them, and respond aligned with your values. Daily reflection strengthens insight, reinforces conscious habits, and ensures growth is cumulative. Values-based living provides a compass, guiding actions with integrity, clarity, and purpose. Emotional strength is the foundation of mastery. It allows you to face challenges, discomfort, and uncertainty with stability and confidence. Reactions become measured responses rather than automatic outbursts. You cultivate courage, patience, and clarity in all situations. Mastery is not perfection. It is consistent practice, self-compassion, and learning from each moment. Even when reactions arise, awareness and reflection allow you to realign quickly. Over time, the power of triggers diminishes because they no longer dictate emotions or actions. Famous teachers highlight the essence of mastery. Aristotle said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." Epictetus taught that freedom comes from within, from controlling reactions rather than external events. Modern psychology confirms that conscious attention, reflection, and self-regulation reshape responses and reduce automatic emotional reactivity. Practical steps for achieving freedom through mastery include: observe triggers and emotional responses without judgment. Pause and breathe to create space before reacting. Name feelings and listen to bodily signals. Reflect daily to understand patterns, lessons, and growth opportunities. Practice self-compassion, forgiveness, and values-based decision-making. Reduce overstimulation, enforce boundaries, and choose supportive environments. Cultivate emotional strength through resilience, courage, and mindful practice. Integrate all tools consistently into daily life, making conscious mastery habitual. Freedom through mastery transforms life. Triggers no longer control emotions, thoughts, or actions. You respond to challenges with clarity, calm, and integrity. Your relationships, work, and daily experiences improve because reactions are conscious, deliberate, and aligned with your principles. Life becomes a series of intentional choices rather than reactive patterns. Mastery is liberation. It is the ability to live fully present, aware, and aligned with your values. It is the calm in the storm, the clarity amidst chaos, and the freedom to choose consciously in every moment. Through consistent practice, triggers become guides, challenges become lessons, and emotional freedom becomes reality. As you continue this journey, remember that mastery is a lifelong practice. Each day, moment, and trigger offers an opportunity to practice, grow, and refine your emotional awareness. Over time, the tools of awareness, breath, reflection, values, self-compassion, and conscious response coalesce into a life of freedom, clarity, and profound inner peace. Freedom through mastery is not a destination. It is a way of being. It is the lived experience of conscious choice, emotional resilience, and alignment with your deepest values. Triggers no longer limit you. They guide you, teach you, and help you embody the life you choose intentionally.